Good afternoon, and it's Wednesday, not Saturday, not Sunday, it's Wednesday. I'm down because we've had a week off. We weren't down at the weekend there, we were down the weekend before we mowed, we did everything that we normally do, but we missed the weekend. And the reason we missed the weekend is because it was supposed to be my birthday weekend. That makes it sound as if I enjoy making a big deal out of these things. I don't. I was actually going to go away so nobody would do anything. Not that anyone did, has to be said. There was a surprising lack of anyone saying, no Paul, don't go away for your birthday, we want to have a party. Literally no one said that. Anyway, the point is I was ready to go away on that, and I had to turn around because it wasn't working properly. The brakes were a bit squirrely, and what happened was I cowped it. So in case you're interested, I know this isn't a motorcycle channel. I'm not really a biker. I just have a bike. I don't really consider myself to be a biker, obviously, because I dropped that one on my ankle. Here's the thing, right? You can high side or low side on a motorbike. If you're going to drop it or crash, those are the two sort of main ways you can do it. High side it or low side it. If you high side it, it means that you flip over in the opposite direction from which way the bike was leaning. So say you're going around a right hand bend, maybe you'll lose traction and the back wheel will all of a sudden grip again, and it'll just like flip you over, and you'll actually go over the bike and the bike will flip over, and it's horrible. I've never done that before. Or you can low side it, which is when you're going round and say you're turning to the right again and the bike just goes and it just like falls down. That's what happened with that. The front brakes were like binding a little bit and they bound, and I was on gravel and it slid out, bike cowped, landed on my ankle, crushed it. I'm an old man, what can I say? It's more embarrassing than anything else. Anyway, so I'm here. I thought I'd come down because I fixed it all now. It's all working now, did all that. Brakes are not binding, so I thought I'd come down and have a look here at Towford if you're a local, Towford if you're not. The thing is, at the first 2 weeks in July, the Polish Scouts are still planning on coming down, and fair play to them. I'm not quite sure how they're organising themselves, but it's a very remote site. There's no bus route and it's very remote, so I'm not quite sure if they're going to have transport on site. I'm told that there might be as many as 50 of them camping, so I mean that's a coach, that's a coach, it's not a minibus, it's a coach. So what I want to do is make sure that everything is as good as we've got some molehills on our ramp here, as everything is as good as it can be for them being here. And that means things like making sure the water supply is adequate, making sure that the grass is all cut where it needs to be cut, strimming as much of the nettles as we can. Hate nettles, by the way, really can't stand them. And just making sure that everything is as neat and safe and as agreeable as we can make it. In terms of the house, they're not going to be using the house. It's not really a house, is it? In terms of the building, they're not going to really be using that. They may use it as an emergency kind of to store things, but I don't think they're going to use it. They are going to be camping. These are our Polish Scouts. They're not from Poland, they live in the Edinburgh area, but they are members of the Polish Scout Association. So, and they're very keen, they're very scouty, and they're frankly a lot more capable than we are when it comes to this sort of thing. They are quite hardcore, it has to be said. So it'll be interesting to see how they camp. We're going to obviously come down and visit them. They've invited us down for a shooting competition, which of course we'll win because, you know, we're big on shooting. They've also expressed an interest in doing some work on the ground, so I'm thinking maybe we could come down for a day, bring strimmers down and let them cut a maze into the bracken, our bracken fields. Our two bracken fields are, I can see that they're growing at a ferocious rate as they normally do. I want to catch up a little bit as well on what we've been doing over the past sort of few weeks. Obviously there's been a lot of grass cutting. I can only show you so much of that before you die of boredom. It's just grass cutting and strimming. The place all does need cut and strimmed again, but we'll get to that. But we did establish a path of sorts down to our new swimming hole, and we also trimmed the path down to the pond and the river. So let's go and have a look at that, shall we? So we're down in the bottom corner by the river, the land, the river's here, the pond is here, and we've got a real snarl of trees here. This tree behind me came down, I think in the last blow, and this tree here has been down for quite some time and it's clogging things up. It's a big job. There's another tree through there that's kind of the river there, to get that sorted as well. We might get the Polish scouts to maybe have a look at that one, because they'll need to be in the river when they do that, and it can be tackled with hand saws. This is going to need something a bit more substantial, I think. The river is peaceful. We've seen it in spate and at various different levels, and it's quite calm just now, which is nice for a change. You see the tree down with its branches draped into the river. This is a deep spot here. It's like, when I say deep, it's like 3 or 4 feet. It's not like, it's not bottomless. There's no monsters in there, but it's a good spot for a wallow if you so desire. I really do hope that they get good weather for their 2 weeks at Towford, if you're a local, Towford if you're not. I suspect it may rain, and actually that's not really a bad thing as long as it doesn't do it all the time. One of the things that we've done is, obviously we've installed a rainwater catchment system to flush the toilets. We have 2 1,000 litre IBC tanks. Now, I'm a bit concerned about this because if they said 50, okay, so let's work this out. Let's do some maths. 2 1,000 litre IBC tanks, that's 2,000 litres of water. The toilets are old school 10 litre flush toilets, although I've kind of dialed one back, so it's maybe 3/4 that, but let's just assume that it is 2 10 litre flushes. So let's say 1 flush per day per person. We've said solids only in the toilets, that's it. 1 flush per day. So that is 50 flushes, and if we're going to be doing 50 flushes a day at 10 days, 10 times 50, 500 flushes. 500 times 10 is 5,000, is that right? 500? It is. And we've got 2,000 litres of water. That's not enough water, is it? We got there in the end. It's not really enough water to flush the toilets. I don't think it won't be that many flushes, and it probably will rain, so they'll fill back up. And also there's that blue barrel, which has probably got another, 500 litres in it, so well, maybe just say they are bringing toilets down. They're hiring like porta potties, I think, as well. So there's that, and also they could just dig a hole. Something tells me they wouldn't mind doing that. They're into it. We're also going to build a bridge down here at the river, which we're keen to see how you manage that. Also remember, we've got water in the building now. So the tank up the hill, I believe, is a 5,000 litre tank. And it's not connected to the toilet, so they won't be flushing that water. It's not drinking water. We've said hand washing, which is good. Hand washing's fine. We've tested the water as well, and there's nothing, certainly the test kit that we used, or that I used, I'm a scientist by the way, so it's 100% trustworthy, didn't flag up anything awful, and crucially there was no the test I did for bacteria also came back negative. So I think that's good for such confidence, isn't it? I think, in my infinite wisdom, which really knows no beginning, think that the water will be fine for hand washing and dishwashing. So there's savings to be made there. They're talking about going up to a local farm over by, which is Towford Farm. I think that's Towford Farmhouse over there. So we're going to go over and ask. I'm going to go over and say, listen, we've got some people camping. Do you think we could fill our water containers with your outside tap? Or is there maybe there's something some mains water that we can get access to? So we'll see how that goes. We haven't really spoken to any of our neighbours. Neighbours are not the most chatty down here, but that's fine. People keep themselves to themselves. I get that. Let's go and have a look at the path that we cut to the new swim hole. This bridge has got a crack in one of the, I don't even know what you call it, a lengthways spar. It's got a crack in it, so we need to patch that because it's not safe. It looks quite bad. We had a really warm day 2 or 3 weeks ago now, maybe 4 weeks ago, and George and Henry, I didn't film it, were in the water. They were stripped down to their underwear. It was like the 1950s. It was like health and safety and safeguarding had never happened. I averted my eyes, I turned the camera off, but they were in here. I was a bit nervous because I don't know how deep it is, but it's not that deep, you could stand up in it. But there is a plunge pool there and they were sliding down the waterfall, and by all accounts, well, by their accounts, didn't look like that much fun to me, but they were having a whale of a time. I would exercise a little bit of caution. I wouldn't send very young children in there. They were sliding down and they were going right down into there, right up above their heads. So Henry is like a swimmer, he's like does competitions. So I wasn't really that nervous about him and George. George a good swimmer as well. And obviously we've seen George on the dinghy, so his river craft is, well, I mean, it's second to none. So I wasn't that nervous about letting them in, and I did say to them, I was very clear. I said, listen, if you get into trouble, okay, I can't rescue you. It's not going to happen because, frankly, both of you are easily better swimmers than I ever would be, and also, I don't want to get all my clothes wet. I'd have to take my phone out of my pocket, my wallet, and all that kind of stuff, and I would be no use. Someone would end up just having to rescue me. We didn't need to get rescued. Everyone had a great time, and it was fine. If it was 1950, 2024, you know, let's just not go there. Let's pretend it never happened, actually. Well, that makes it sound even worse, as if there's something to hide. And there wasn't, it was perfectly innocent. I think what might happen, if the Polish Scouts get good weather, they could be in there, and actually you could smooth out the waterfall. They could bring spades and shovels down and smooth it out and get a pretty decent slide, flume type slide type thing. I think that's the kind of thing the Polish Scouts might actually enjoy. They don't seem to be encumbered, and I do mean that word deliberately. Just got poked in the head by a stick there. They don't seem to be encumbered with quite the health and safety bureaucracy that we do in the UK. They seem to be a wee bit more, I wouldn't say relaxed. I have heard the Polish Scout leader talking about health and safety and about the forms he has to fill out and the training and all the rest of it. So they're not completely lackadaisical about it, but perhaps a little bit more practical than we are. I think we're busy in the UK scouting trying to make promises that frankly we can't keep. There, said something controversial. However, we think we will have a great 10 days down here. The plan for this weekend will be, I think something met its end right there. Probably a pigeon. So our plan for the weekend is probably to try and get down Saturday and Sunday. And we need to do a full strim and cut. And what we need to do down here, I think, is we need to lower the cutting deck on the John Deere. We've got a ride-on mower that George uses. He's down here mowing, but it doesn't mow quite as short as the push mowers do. So we can either run the John Deere over. The reason we have the cutting deck up quite high is because it's quite uneven, so we could probably lower it a little bit, just be a bit more careful. Get this cut down strim in amongst all this, maybe tidy that up a bit, give them a bit more space. I'm thinking with like 50 of them, they will need space. So what we'll also do with that in mind is we will cut and strim and prepare the hilltop campsite as well, and that'll be good for them. There is space to camp, but it's overgrown, and we obviously for our needs and generally speaking this is probably enough. Valley campsite as we call this, or as I call it, I know it's quite caught on, and obviously there's hilltop, but hilltop's a bit further away from building and the campfire circle, the main one there, so we don't really use hilltop that often. But hilltop is actually quite a good site. It's sheltered. It's there's a fire circle there. It's surrounded by trees and it's a wee bit flatter. So yeah, so we'll tidy that up as well. Next, we are going to update you on where we are with the administration and the lease. Normally our path up to the water tank is clear to see. I mean, we cut it once, maybe twice, and the bracken didn't really grow back where we cut previously. but it's grown back now. Thomas did it last time, and it's heavy going. To get like a cutting disc on a strimmer, and it's heavy going, it's hard work, it's not easy to do. So let's talk about the lease. Gosh, the lease. What an absolute, I don't know, failure, administrative failure, just an absolute mess of a situation. It's a situation which is kind of difficult to define because it's purely bureaucratic, and also it's people maybe just being, I don't know, snookered by their own rules, being stymied by their own administration. It's actually quite frustrating. So I think the last thing I said to you was that I'd been in touch with the councillors for the ward that we're in from Borders, the Borders sort of regional area, whatever we call that. I'd written to the MSP and written to the MP, and only the MP got back in touch. John Lamont got back in touch and said he would chase it, and I don't know if he has, but I've heard nothing. That was about probably 3 weeks ago now, and I've heard nothing. I email our contact in the legal department of Scottish Borders Council, and basically they don't reply. They just don't reply, which is really kind of disappointing. There isn't even an acknowledgement, and I just think that's a bit of a, I mean, even if it is complicated, and probably it is somehow, to not even acknowledge emails coming from a charity that has statutory responsibilities in terms of, you know, legal responsibilities, that's shoddy. I think that's shoddy. So what I did was, I don't even remember, but about 14 months ago we had a camp here with Gala Shield Scouts, and a reporter from the BBC came down and did a story that was on the BBC website. I'll put a wee image up of that and a wee link as well, and you can have a look. And that got really good traction. We got a lot of donations and a lot of good wishes and well wishes from people hoping for the best and wishing us well. So I got back in touch with that reporter just today, in fact, and said, listen, this is a situation, we're being ignored by Scottish Borders Council, by Borders Council, and it's a wee bit frustrating. Could you either do maybe a follow-up story if you're interested? We've got Polish Scouts coming down, and they're great, very photogenic, great uniforms, Polish Scouts. And he replied very quickly and said, I'll chase it up with Borders Council and see what they say. And hopefully that might get things moving, maybe. You may or may not remember, probably not. The complication was Craig Vinine Outdoor Centre Trust still had the lease for this place, and Borders Council, the people we were speaking to at Borders Council, had agreed, or were in agreement, that we would take on the renovation of the building. Now, it might be a technical point, but we don't want to take on the Craig Vinine Outdoor Centre Trust liability in terms of what they haven't done here. But we are taking on the renovation of the building. Now, if Borders Council want to sue the Craig Vinine Outdoor Centre Trust, then that's entirely between them, Scottish Borders Council, and the Craig Vinine Outdoor Centre Trust. We wouldn't really have anything to do with that. We would hope that if they were successful, which I don't think they would be, because it was a limited company, that some of the money would come our way for the repairs, but I just don't think they'll do it. I think it's one of these things where they'll grumble and nothing will eventually get done, and that'll be that. So undoubtedly, I think that's what's going to be explained to the BBC reporter, and they're going to, I don't know, present it as some sort of, I don't know, bureaucratic dead end that they just can't get past. Even although we've said we will renovate the building, they're just stymied by their own bureaucracy. I don't know how else to explain it. It is very frustrating, and I think that at the end of this year we have to make a hard decision, because as trustees, legally speaking, we have a statutory duty, if we're spending charitable donations on a project we know we will not be able to complete. I mean, is that fraud? I don't know. I've not looked at the legal side of it, but I'm not comfortable asking people for money, organisations for money, for something that I now really don't think that, you know, we were doing really well. We had the option to lease, and, you know, we'd spoken to the council and said, well, that wasn't, and we tried it, but it didn't work, and we said that it might not work, but we gave that we made an effort, and we thought we were doing quite well, and they said, I've got emails that said they would give us a lease, but hopefully maybe some media pressure from the BBC might do the job. I'm also going to try and get in touch with some local newspapers. I have tried to do this and received no acknowledgement. I don't know what it is down here. Normally local newspapers are quite keen to get stories in, but I don't know what's going on. The other thing that would be really helpful, I'll stop blethering in a wee minute, is if you like and subscribe to this channel and share it, share the videos. Go and have a look at us on Instagram when I remember to put something on it. I'm old, I don't remember to do things like that, but I'm going to just do that now after I do this. So like and subscribe here, go to Instagram, like and subscribe, or subscribe there, whatever it is that happens on Instagram. Is that all we've got? We've got a Facebook page. The Facebook page is not Towford or Towford, it's the, what do we call that? It's the Towford Outdoor Centre Renovation Project, I think it's called, on Facebook. So it's Gosford Bay Outdoors everywhere else, but on Facebook, because there was already a Towford Outdoor Centre, it's Gosford Bay Outdoors. So if you go to Facebook and search, and like and subscribe to that page, whatever, get updates, whatever. And I don't update Facebook and Instagram very often, but I try to. I do my best. YouTube we're trying to build up to get traction, maybe raise some money, raise awareness, and also interesting videos.